Alright, so here's the Unit 1 lab. These guys are getting their brake bleeding tools. We're pulling a master cylinder off a Honda, I guess. Let's see what these guys are up to. There's some flexibility here, which I'll explain. Looking good on that master cylinder, making it look good. So this is packet. Don't worry, I'll get back to your exact page. These are the jobs they need to do. Understanding the master cylinder, diagnosing a master cylinder, bleeding a master cylinder. Hydraulic brake valves, which is mostly for understanding. Gonna fabricate the brake line, bleed brake systems in several different ways, including a vacuum bleeder, manual bleeding, and pressure bleeding. And then doing some hydraulic diagnosis, diagnosing a warning light. So each group is at a different point in this process. So like this next group right here, they replaced the master cylinder. You can see, getting ready to do bleeding. This group is doing I actually don't know what they're doing. I'd have to find them. But they have the hydraulic booster master cylinder assembly. Pulling a master cylinder here. Looking good. That master cylinder is out and they're diagnosing it internally. And this is a big hydraulic booster master cylinder assembly. That is going to be a brake flush, but they already did the master cylinder job. This group is pulling a master cylinder too. I know that there's a group over here that's bleeding. So doing the lab, you don't have to do everything exactly in order, because if everybody's bleeding at the same second, we don't have enough tools. But these are some of the things that are part of the lab. Very good. I should show you something real quick. Let's walk around them. The main, obviously there's all the toolboxes out, but the main special tools box is going to be here. And this is going to have a lot of our bleeder stuff. This has some of our pressure bleeder adapters. These are the main workhorses for now. Unlike when we were doing brake measurement, we're in here with brake inspections. And the other thing I could show you is when we do the brake fluid work, the old brake fluid will go here. Just put it right in with the used oil. But if you're trying to drain it under the car, we can use some of these catch pans, put them away nice and clean. That's where those live. The laptops are where the laptops always are. And then let me show you the brake fluid. So you're ready to do this. And everybody understands we're trying to maximize our time here, so they kind of figure out what order they want to do those worksheets in and which order they want to do the tasks in. So there's some brake fluid out. And then got a pretty abundant supply here. There's plenty, rows and rows of brake fluid in there. So that is what the week 1 lab will look like. Master cylinder is removed. We've got our adapters in. We've got our 2 hoses. So if you guys think about it, this will be our primary circuit. This will be our secondary circuit. If we're going to pre-bleed the new master cylinder, we'll need to put some brake fluid in there. It should be sealed. And then we'll look. Pretty much get it pretty close to full. And then a little tip is we're going to tip these up. And then as I pump this, if you can come and see right from the top, you'll see the fluid squirt in as I pump it, but you got to do it kind of gentle, or you're going to make a mess. See the air bubbles getting pushed out? We're going to do that until it gets a little bit better. There's only one problem with how we're doing this. These hoses should be a little longer to dip in the fluid, but this had a funny shaped reservoir, so I don't think we'll get them quite that long. And so the main thing is to give it a good pump Now you notice the bubbles are pretty minimal. A lot of times with the plastic fittings like that, the bubbles will probably never completely go away. So don't be super meticulous, but we'll do the best that we can. And then if you really want, this is what I would do off the record. I would just run it down here. Brake fluid's pretty cheap. And then we'll just give it like a quick pump. And then we're good. This master cylinder will be ready to install. Kind of cool. But ideally, get them long enough where you can dunk them in the fluid. Because when I let this go, look, the bubbles flow backwards. Kind of pulling air back into there. So that's not really ideal. If you want to do it really janky, what we could do, let's hold this one. Volunteer. Hold it lower down there. Because we got short hoses. We're going to fill this one up. And you didn't have to be a master cylinder. We could actually have used the bottle, but it's easier to see if it's a master, right? And then I'll just dunk these down in there, and you'll see this thing will keep running, but this will actually bleed them a little bit better. Because look, when I let it go, the bubbles travel backwards, but there's not going to be any more bubbles because they're submerged. So we just do a few pumps, and we're pretty much there. Now, we'd be ready to install it. How would you guys install it though? Because if I release this all the way, you notice the fluid keeps flowing. Like, watch. See this? It's flowing. All I'd really have to do is just press it. If you could just depress the piston a little bit, it stops. Why is that? Because it blocks out the compensating port, remember? So actually, when I bring this over the car, I'm going to try to hold my hand on it a little bit, and then when I go to install it, I'll have to let go for a quick second, but that way it's just going to not run and run and run. So this one's ready to install. That's what you said. All right, so the other way you could do this without the whole kit, we actually have some plugs here. So what these plugs actually are, these are brake lines that we cut off a junkyard car. So if you look at it, that's the brake line. We cut it off, we took the end and we rolled it up and we crimped it in the vise. So we can use these as plugs for a couple reasons. If I thread this in and then I basically start to pump the pedal, I'm going to just give it a little bit of pressure, and then I'm going to crack this loose, and you're going to see a little bit of air. There's a little bit of air that came out. Okay, then I'll snug it up, and that'll be essentially bled. Now that that's snugged, I'll release, and I'll do that one more time. Let the little bit of air out here. You see a little bit of fluid and a little bit of air, but not much. Okay, while I'm holding the piston, I'll snug it up. Then I put wrenches on these, crank them, and then if I compress this, how should this master cylinder feel? Firm, yeah, it's firm. Boom. And it is. Like that. What would it tell me if this was still spongy? But I just bled it. So there is no system, right? I've got it plugged off. So if it's still spongy, tell me again. You're guessing now. The seal would be internally bad. This test right here tells you if your master cylinder is good or bad. If you plug it like that and do a quick bleed, and then you pump this and it's still spongy, like I can simulate what spongy would look like, but I'm messing my test up if I do. I'll unthread this pretty far. Oh, actually, I got to apparently go a little further, like maybe all the way out. When I do this, ooh, that was a mess. When I do this, see this? I can punch this all the way in. It's spongy feeling. Well, that's because I don't have the plug in. But if you have the plug-in and you let all the air out, it should not be spongy. If it's still spongy, it's because the internal seal is no good. See what I'm saying? So this actually needs a little bit of bleeding. Uh-huh. Yep. All you need to do to diagnose a master cylinder is undo the lines, put these plugs in, do a quick little bleed, and then pump the pedal, and the pedal should be firm. Firm. If the pedal's still spongy, it's not because you have air in the system, it's because you have a defective internal seal in the master. You kind of get it? Mostly makes sense? All right, good test. They have slain the beast. They have slain the beast. Well, this is cool because you guys are doing master cylinder and booster in one.
Exactly.
Now you can reinstall it, and then the bleeding procedure we're going to check back in with you. You have a little beast. All right, so look at that brake fluid coming out. We got the pressure bleeder on there. pumped up to about 15 psi. That's pressurizing the whole reservoir, master cylinder, and everything with brand new brake fluid. We did furthest from the master cylinder over here, over here, over here, and now this is our last one. So we got just the bleeder cracked. And as you can see, we're just going to keep it open until the fluid's clean. The old fluid's actually kind of golden. The fluid coming out of there is already clean. You're actually good to go, Andres. You can close this one up. No need to have anybody in there pumping because the pressure bleeder pressurizes it. Now when this gets a little low, just go ahead and pump up the jam like it's a bicycle. Like that. So that's how it maintains pressure. You would do all 4 of them, and then we're going to shut this valve off, disconnect this, clean up any mess, button it all up, and then the brake pedal should still be nice and firm. And that's the way you'd either pressure bleed, or pressure bleeding is, in my opinion, the quickest way to do a brake flush as well. You could do pressure and vacuum at the same time, but I just find it easier to just set the pan down under there and then come and spray these down with either the hose or brake clean if somebody else is paying the bill. And there you go. All right, so this is the story of the disappearing brake fluid. This car would eat brake fluid, it'd be gone, no leaks, no leaks. It's gone, top it off, no leaks. It's low again, top it off. And so it took unbolting it. Looking here, as you can see, it's all rusty because the secondary cup seal on the primary piston, which is right there in green, that's the piston. So that's the seal that's like right just out of reach, was leaking. The brake fluid was going into the booster, and the booster was full of brake fluid. And check out the smoke. Cool, really cool. So now it's fixed. All right, so here's how I would actually bench bleed. Not on the bench. So Nate is going to be pushing the brake pedal down, and now we'll pause for a second, push it probably about 2 times so you can pump it, let it go, and pump it maybe twice, and then hold it down. You're holding. Now Abdul is just going to crack it loose right at the fitting here. Let me get in a spot where I can see better. All right, go ahead, crack it loose. And then right there, I saw a little bubble of air and I saw a little fluid. And then snug it closed. And then, Nate, you're gonna pump twice. And then hold down. Now let me zoom in real. I wanna zoom, not flip. Okay, Abdul, crack it loose. All right, that looked mostly like fluid. And then snug it. And then Nate, pump it a couple times, hold it down, and we're just gonna do that same thing on both the brake lines. And that way we're gonna get probably almost all the air out, and if you're really happy with how the pedal feels, you're done. And if there's still some sponginess, then you can bleed the rest of the way, but it shouldn't take as long now that we bench bled it in the car. Okay? Pump it 3 times and hold. So Nate's pumping, he's holding, as you can see. Alright.
Okay. Give me 3 more times and hold.
So manual bleeding, we only release when he's holding. And once we snug it back up right there.
Okay. 3 more times.
Pump 3 times. And hold. Crack it loose. So just manually working it out right there. It's working good. But at the same time, we've got, oh wow, they went to in and out. You better button that car up clean and pull it out there, San Juan people. Yeah, you're done with a double-double. We've got these people over here doing a vacuum bleed. You could check in with them. Now with vacuum bleeding, you're essentially just hooking this up, pulling the trigger. Nobody needs to pump. All right, go ahead. Your hands are slippery. All right. Go ahead and pop that black cover off. All right. We got the wrench here. I'm gonna hook that on the bleeder. Yeah. Alright, crack it loose. You can use an open end, but if it ever gives you trouble, get a 6-point socket in the ratchet. Alright. Hook the hose up. And we'll squeeze the trigger. And we'll see what we got. And there it goes. Keep pulling it. So we'll do that till we don't see any more air, but that's not my favorite tool. And if you still see some air, sometimes it's sucking air around the rubber connection. But it's a good way to at least get most of the way. And then these guys are doing the Techstream bleed.